They will never tell you this, but the greatest danger is not the declared enemy. It is the smiling friend who hides intentions in the shadows. Machiavelli's warning is not about war, but about everyday life, about how you are manipulated without realizing it. What seems like loyalty is often disguised interest, and blind trust has already brought down more men than entire armies. The truth is harsh. The more you believe in appearances, the more vulnerable you become. Yet there is a way to see beyond the obvious, to decipher the intentions others hide, and to shield yourself against silent betrayals. And that is exactly what you are going to discover here. If themes like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe to the channel now. The truth no one told you. Very few people realize it. But your whole life, you have been fed pretty and harmless stories about how the world works. They told you that it is enough to be good, obedient, correct, and everything will work out. But they did not tell you the dark part, the one that the powerful hide because they know that when revealed, it completely changes the game. Their silence was not by accident, it was strategy. And perhaps you already felt that something was wrong, but you never knew how to name it. It is as if you had lived until today blindfolded, believing that reality was only what they taught you at school or at home. But when you take off that blindfold, you discover that there's another world behind appearances. A brutal world full of masks, illusions, and games of power. Most people prefer to die without seeing this because it hurts. But the few who see it never go back to living as before. Imagine discovering, suddenly, that every time you were deceived, ignored, or discarded, it was not an accident, but part of an invisible mechanism that has always been there. It is like playing checkers thinking that everyone around you is also playing checkers, when in reality, they have been playing chess for a long time. That difference changes everything. Because those who play chess anticipate, manipulate, and control. Those who play checkers only react. The most disturbing thing is that this happens everywhere. At work, in relationships, in politics. You strive to be fair and transparent, but on the other side there are people who studied how to control emotions, how to manipulate perceptions, how to turn every detail into an advantage. And when you realize it, you are already trapped on their board, without even being aware of the game that began. Ask yourself, why is it that your parents never taught you this? Why is it that your teachers never spoke of it? The answer is cruel. They did not know either. Or, if they did, they were afraid to admit that the world is not fair, that life does not reward innocence, that reality does not bend to the ideal. So they repeated the script they received, believing they were protecting you, but in truth, they left you vulnerable. And here is the greatest lie they told you, that seeing reality as it is would make you bad, manipulative, or cold. None of that. Seeing reality does not make you a monster. It makes you someone free, because ignorance is not virtue. It is weakness. It is what turns you into easy prey, what makes you dependent on the approval of others, and incapable of defending yourself from predators who already understood these rules. Life, from the moment you know these truths, is never the same again. There is the before and the after. Before, you believe that everyone is rational, that decisions are made based on logic and arguments. After, you realize that everything is moved by emotion, desire, and fear. And in that instant, everything you thought was solid begins to crumble. But in its place, something much more powerful arises. Clarity. And maybe you feel a chill down your spine now. After all, what to do with this knowledge? It can be used to protect, to win, or to dominate. And this is exactly where the first great warning begins. Humans are not rational. They never were. They are guided by appearances, by sensations, and by instincts. Whoever understands this will have in their hands a dangerous key, capable of opening doors that no one ever wanted you to cross. The myth of reason and the truth about emotions. Since childhood, you heard that the human being is rational, that he always weighs options, calculates consequences, and chooses what is most logical. But just look around to see that this is not true. How many times have you yourself made a decision knowing it was the worst possible, just because at that moment it felt good? That is where the contradiction lies. We do not follow logic, we follow what we feel. Machiavelli had already understood this centuries ago. He said that men are guided more by their eyes than by their hands, meaning they prefer appearance to reality. And is that not true? The colleague who complains about money but spends on the expensive coffee every day because it gives him pleasure. The friend who asks for love advice but refuses to listen to the truth because it would make him suffer. In such cases, reason does not stand a chance against the illusion of comfort. And that is exactly why so many attempts to persuade others fail. You believe that facts change minds, that statistics win arguments, that logic convinces. But facts do not move people. Feelings do. A person does not want to know what is true. They want to feel something that confirms their beliefs, their desires, their hopes. And when that happens, truth becomes irrelevant. Think of the great leaders and manipulators of history. None of them conquered crowds with reports, numbers, and objective proofs. They used words that inflame anger, fear, hope. It was pure emotion, channeled strategically, that brought them to power. And this continues to happen today in political campaigns, in company advertising, and even in the closest relationships. Have you noticed that when you argue with someone, no matter how many facts you bring, the other simply ignores them? It is because logic is not at stake. It is emotion. And if you want to be heard, you need to stop trying to win by reason and start touching where it really hurts or enchants. The feeling. The man who understands this ceases to be invisible and begins to command attention anywhere. This also explains why so many good people lose space to those who seem wrong. The world is not governed by those who are right, but by those who make others feel that they are right. It is the difference between the teacher who tries to impose facts and the leader who creates a narrative that involves, that moves, that drags crowds. And as unfair as it seems, that is what separates those who influence from those who are ignored. Look at the brands you consume. They do not sell products, they sell sensations. Soda is not sugar with gas. It is bottled happiness. The phone is not just technology. It is status. Religion did not spread through philosophical logic, but because it captured deep fears and hopes. Everything, absolutely everything, is built on a manipulation of what people feel, not on what they know. And here's the first dark warning. If you keep believing that reason governs men, you will always be deceived. Logic dies before desire, evaporates before fear, and disappears before the promise of pleasure. The world is moved by emotions, and only those who learn to shape them are able to survive. And it is precisely when you understand this that you discover an even harsher truth. If we are emotional, then loyalty itself may be nothing more than an illusion. How appearances deceive, and the importance of perception. Machiavelli warns us that relying only on appearances is a mistake many make. It is like looking at the surface of a lake and believing you know its depth. Have you noticed how some people seem impeccable, but hide secrets or intentions that only reveal themselves over time? Learning to see beyond the facade is a skill few develop, but one that can completely change your decisions. Observing is not just seeing. It is interpreting subtle signs that often go unnoticed. A nervous gesture, a strategic pause, even the tone of voice can reveal hidden intentions. Machiavelli teaches us that these clues are pure gold for those who want to protect themselves, and at the same time move forward with intelligence. Ignoring these signs is walking blind in a territory full of traps. Imagine being in a meeting and someone smiles at you, but their eyes show impatience or disdain. It is in this contrast between appearance and reality that the true dynamics of power are hidden. Understanding this allows you to act cautiously, avoiding impulsive decisions that could cause losses. Perception is the most valuable tool of the strategist, and it must be cultivated every day. A daily example: a friend who always seems loyal but murmurs criticisms behind your back. Or a partner who promises support but acts only when there is personal gain. Machiavelli suggests that discernment is essential to navigate these relationships. It is not about constant distrust, but about paying attention to the signs that indicate the true intention behind words and gestures. Perception also protects us from emotional illusions. How many times have we been carried away by charisma, beauty, or charm, ignoring behaviors that indicated the opposite? Learning to decipher these layers is like developing social X-ray vision. It is a daily training, but every detail noticed can save you from mistakes and significant losses. Another important lesson: what is visible is not always the most relevant. Often the most subtle details, like silence at critical moments or strategic choices that no one notices, reveal more than any eloquent speech. Machiavelli shows us that power hides precisely where no one imagines. Observing and interpreting is transforming the invisible into concrete advantage. And here comes a personal reflection. How many opportunities have we let slip by not perceiving the reality behind the appearance? Daily life is full of moments when sharper perception would make all the difference. Learning to see what others hide is not only about surviving, but thriving. It is like turning the game of life into something predictable instead of being constantly surprised. Finally, this skill of perception prepares us for the next step: acting strategically, using the reading of appearances to our advantage. Every gesture observed, every nuance interpreted, becomes part of practical intelligence that gives us an edge. But are we ready to learn not only to see, but to use this vision to influence and protect our decisions? The game of trust. When and in whom to trust, Machiavelli teaches us that trust is an art, not an instinct. Trusting someone without observing signs is like giving the key to your house to a stranger just because of his smile. Have you noticed how some people seem to deserve our trust, but their actions show the opposite? The secret is to identify when trust is strategic and when it is dangerous. Trusting too much can be fatal, but distrusting everyone also paralyzes. The key is balance, observing behaviors, patterns, and intentions before opening up. It is like walking on stones in a river. Each step must be calculated, knowing that some may give way. Those who master this art achieve safer and more advantageous relationships. A daily example is the professional environment. Colleagues may smile, praise, and seem like allies, but their actions reveal their own interests. Machiavelli shows us that it is essential to perceive when loyalty is genuine and when it is only convenient. Learning to read these nuances avoids disappointments and lost opportunities. Trust is also about timing. Trusting someone too early is like giving away your trump card before the game begins. Observing, testing, and only then opening up allows you to assess the true intention of the other. This discreet strategy, often invisible, is what separates those who thrive from those who let themselves be deceived. And personal life does not escape this logic. Friends, family, partners, all present layers that are not always visible. Machiavelli warns us, not everyone shares your values or goals. Understanding this is essential to protect our energy and avoid frustrations that could have been prevented. Another important point: trust does not mean subservience. It is possible to trust without exposing yourself completely, without giving up your own security. Strategic trust is an instrument, not blind concession. Those who learn this turn relationships into alliances instead of traps. And it is curious to notice that many times we trust those who least deserve it and distrust those who could be allies. The mistake lies in the superficiality of evaluations. Machiavelli teaches us that attention to detail, consistency, and coherence is what differentiates safe trust from naivety. Finally, understanding the game of trust prepares us for the next step, using this perception to influence and protect our decisions. Every gesture, every word, and every observed action becomes part of a conscious strategy. But are we ready to turn this reading into real power, capable of keeping us always ahead? The art of prudence and calculation in decisions. Machiavelli teaches us that impulsive decisions are the shortest path to error. Acting without reflecting is like rolling dice in the dark, hoping for luck. Have you noticed how decisions made in the heat of the moment almost always generate regret? Prudence is like an invisible shield, protecting those who exercise it from hidden traps. Calculation does not mean emotional coldness. It means awareness and strategy. Every action must be weighed, considering visible and invisible consequences. It is like playing chess. Anticipating moves and identifying the intentions of the other ensures advantage. Those who learn this manage to turn complex situations into opportunities. A daily example. Before accepting a partnership or exposing yourself in a delicate conversation, observing behaviors and measuring reactions is crucial. Small signs, almost imperceptible, indicate whether the decision will bring benefit or risk. Machiavelli shows us that careful perception makes all the difference between success and disaster. Prudence also involves patience. The best moment to act is not always immediate. Waiting for the right moment, when the scenario is favorable and people reveal their true intentions, is a powerful strategy. Many lose opportunities due to anxiety or haste. Ignoring the time is an invisible ally. In daily life, this applies to negotiations, friendships, and even romantic relationships. Observing, analyzing, and calculating before acting avoids frustrations and disappointments. Prudence transforms impulsive reactions into conscious choices, giving control over situations that at first seem chaotic. Another point, strategic calculation requires self-knowledge. Knowing how we react under pressure allows us to better assess risks. Machiavelli reminds us that mastering oneself is part of power. Those who do not know themselves will hardly interpret others' intentions correctly or make advantageous decisions. A good exercise is to analyze each situation before acting, as if studying a map of unknown territory. Every detail observed and interpreted reduces unpleasant surprises and increases the ability to influence results. It is the difference between being manipulated by events or being the protagonist of your choices. Finally, prudence and calculation prepare us to go even further, turning the reading of people and situations into concrete advantage. Every thought-out action becomes a strategic piece, and every cautious decision puts us steps ahead. But are we really ready to master this art without falling into the trap of paralysis by overanalysis? Subtle manipulation. How to protect yourself and not be a victim. Machiavelli warns us that manipulation is not always explicit. Often it is invisible, like a wind that changes direction without us noticing. Have you ever felt that someone influenced your decisions without you realizing it? Recognizing these signs is crucial not to become a victim. Subtlety is the terrain where silent power flourishes. Small gestures, strategic compliments, or well-placed silences can shape our choices without us noticing. It is as if we were being guided by invisible strings, thinking we are in control. Those who learn to identify these subtleties gain freedom and protection, transforming from target into attentive observer. A daily example. A colleague who always helps with a task, but later uses that good deed to obtain favors or recognition. Machiavelli shows us that not all kindness is disinterested. The perception of these nuances is what separates those who are manipulated from those who act with autonomy and intelligence. Defense against manipulation begins with self-knowledge. Understanding your own vulnerabilities allows you to notice when someone tries to exploit them. It is like building an internal, invisible armor that protects our desires and decisions. Without this awareness, even the most discreet intentions can deeply affect us. Observing behavioral patterns is also essential. Manipulative people repeat subtle strategies, and identifying these repetitions allows you to anticipate future actions. It is almost like learning the secret language of hidden interests, which few decipher. Those who understand this gain a decisive advantage in social relations. Another point, manipulation often hides behind compliments, kindness, or seductive words. Machiavelli teaches us that true power does not need to be loud. It can be silent and effective. Recognizing these tactics is like turning on a light in a dark room, revealing what previously went unnoticed. A practical exercise is to question intentions before reacting. Why did this person say that? What benefit did they get from my response? This simple reflection helps us filter external influences and keep decisions aligned with our goals. The world is full of hidden influences, but conscious attention turns risk into opportunity. And by learning to protect ourselves from manipulation, we move closer to the next step, using the reading of intentions and behaviors to build power and strategic advantage. Every observation, every detail noticed, becomes a piece on the board of life. But are we ready to turn this perception into effective and safe action? The power of observation, seeing what others do not see. Machiavelli teaches us that the true advantage is in seeing what goes unnoticed by others. It is like having social X-ray vision, perceiving intentions, patterns, and small details that shape behavior. Have you noticed how some people always seem to be one step ahead? This capacity for observation is what sets them apart. Observation requires attention to the smallest signals, gestures, looks, pauses, and silent choices. Every detail is a clue about hidden intentions or hidden opportunities. Ignoring these nuances is like trying to solve a puzzle without looking at all the pieces. The richness of information lies precisely in what is subtle. A daily example. In a conversation, someone seems to hesitate before speaking or changes their tone of voice at specific moments. It may seem trivial, but these signs say a lot about what they really think. Machiavelli shows us that those who learn to read these subtleties have control and advantage over complex situations. Attention to details also reveals behavioral patterns. Manipulative people, strategic allies, or disguised competitors repeat subtle moves. Recognizing these repetitions allows you to anticipate actions and plan effective responses. It is like deciphering an invisible code, accessible only to the attentive. Another important point, observing is not only accumulating information, but interpreting meaning. A gesture or a word gains relevance when we understand the context and the intention behind it. Those who master this reading turn seemingly trivial data into practical and strategic power. Constant practice is essential. The more we observe and reflect on behaviors, the sharper our perception becomes. Machiavelli teaches us that continuous observation is like sharpening an invisible blade, ready to cut illusions and reveal hidden truths. This skill also protects us from unpleasant surprises. By perceiving patterns and intentions before they fully manifest, we avoid being caught off guard. It is a way of anticipating the game, always maintaining initiative and reducing risks of deception or betrayal. Finally, the power of observation prepares us for the next step, turning the reading of people and situations into conscious and strategic action. Every detail perceived becomes an opportunity to influence and protect. But are we ready to use this vision without falling into the trap of excessive analysis? Turning perception into strategic advantage, Machiavelli teaches us that perceiving is not enough. It is necessary to turn observation into action. Every detail noticed, every pattern identified, must be used strategically. Have you noticed how some people manage to turn situations to their favor just by knowing what others do not see? This is the true advantage of applied knowledge. Strategic action does not mean manipulating negatively, but protecting yourself and maximizing opportunities. It is like moving pieces on a board, always anticipating moves, calculating risks, and taking advantage of openings. Those who master this art turn challenges into resources and uncertainties into power. A daily example: by noticing that a colleague seeks recognition at the expense of others, we can reposition our actions to avoid conflicts or take advantage of the situation. Machiavelli shows that awareness of others' intentions allows us to act with precision without depending on luck. Strategy also requires flexibility. Not all situations are the same, and not all behaviors can be predicted with accuracy. Observing patterns gives us clues, but it is adaptation that turns perception into concrete advantage. It is like surfing. Each wave requires subtle adjustments to maintain balance and direction. Another important point: the power of strategy lies in combining patience, observation, and action. Acting hastily can destroy opportunities, but acting with caution and at the right moment maximizes results. Machiavelli reminds us that time and perception are powerful allies, and knowing how to use them makes all the difference. This approach also protects us emotionally. By understanding intentions and patterns before getting deeply involved, we reduce frustrations and disappointments. Conscious strategy turns relationships and situations into tools of growth and advantage instead of sources of wear. A practical exercise is to analyze each situation before reacting, mapping possibilities, and anticipating moves. Every interpreted detail is an extra card in our deck. Machiavelli teaches us that this awareness puts us in control, allowing safer and more impactful decisions. Finally, perception transformed into strategy prepares us to navigate the world with safety and intelligence. Every gesture observed and every behavior decoded becomes part of a sustainable advantage. But now, are we ready to use this ability without falling into the temptation of arrogance or strategic paralysis? In the end, Machiavelli's warning is not an invitation to paranoia, but to lucidity. The world is not guided by pure kindness, and those who insist on believing only in masks of friendship are doomed to be used as tools in the game of others. You do not need to become cruel, but you must open your eyes. True strength lies in seeing beyond words, in deciphering silences, in understanding that power is always about perception. Those who ignore this fact are consumed by it. Those who learn to see become untouchable. Now the choice is yours. Continue believing in illusions or take control and use this knowledge to never again be manipulated. Most prefer to sleep in the comfort of ignorance. Few awaken to the clarity of reality. And you, on which side will you be? These two videos in front of you are not here by chance. And what if everything you believe about yourself is only a reflection of someone else's gaze? Click now on one of the videos beside and start breaking that mirror. You will have to risk the click. So, which one will you choose?